Namaskar and welcome, friends. We are here with another gripping episode of Global Focus. I am your host, Hari Sinha, and today we are diving into a conflict that is shaking the very foundation of global stability. The escalating tension between Iran and Israel. This isn't just a Middle Eastern war story. It's a high-stake geopolitical drama with various implications for the world economy, regional peace, and even for India. So stay with us as we decode the unfolding crisis, its impact on global alliances, and how it could reshape India's foreign policy and national interests. So to decode the issue, we have invited Saptarishi Basu, who is a geopolitical expert and a dynamic educator. सप्तऋषि बसु जी, हमारे प्लेटफॉर्म ग्लोबल फोकस पे आपका स्वागत है।
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू फॉर इनवाइटिंग मी।
तो सप्तऋषि बसु जी, ये जो इजराइल और ईरान का कन्फ्लिक्ट है उसके ऊपर आज हम लोग चर्चा करेंगे और हमारा पहला प्रश्न आपके लिए ये है, हाउ डज ईरान इजराइल कन्फ्लिक्ट reshape the strategic architecture of West Asia and what are the implications for global power alignments? So what do you say about it?
You see, before 7th of October 2023, when the fateful attack happened on a Yom Kippur day, exactly 50 or I think 30 or 40 years after the actual Yom Kippur war. And almost history was shaken up and created that day. Before that, if we see the snapshot of the Middle East, we have to basically, it's a dividing timeline. What was before and what is after. Before, we had the entire, let us say, corridor of what we call the Straits of the Red Sea, the West Africa, North African, West Asian country. If we see that entire geopolitical area, it was contested between several powers. There was a West Sunni bloc and an East Shia bloc. Technically speaking, East Shia and secular bloc to be precise.
I see.
Before that, the Western powers, and notably the NATO member and the USA, and quite few prominent players, including France and England, they had interests in the Saudi, the Al Saud Kingdom. They had interests with the Emirates, and they had the interest in the, let us say, to be precise, Egypt and other countries. Those are the kind, and Jordan. Jordan was a very important neutral country which they had very significant interest. So these countries had formed a kind of bloc. At the same time, at that time, Bashar al-Assad's regime, which was holding out against the incessant attack of ISIS as well as the Western powers also, supported by Iran, that is Syria, Lebanon, erstwhile condition of what we can say now hyper radicalized Iraq, Iran, they were firmly with the Russians. Russians had a significant presence in that area via Syria. Turkey was a major game changer along with Oman, and these people were trying to, and Qatar. Oman, Qatar and Turkey were basically playing the fence-sitting game. They were on both sides. They were running with the hare and hunting with the hounds. So they were on both sides of the aisle trying to play games, and very strange games were being played. After this crisis, and before that, the Middle East was poised for great economic boom. We were on the cusp of the Abrahamic Accord being signed by most of the countries. Saudi were almost on the letter was being inked. The pen was just being inked to sign the Abraham Accord. And BIMSTEC was, and IMEC was almost on the hammer, on the blocks, where a major corridor was being formed for let us say, Middle East to Europe and via Israel, which would have brought the world to great prosperity. This is before this conflict. After this, and let me tell you, Iran was a major power contender which had almost cornered the Saudi and Sunni bloc by multiple proxies, by their proxies in Houthi. Saudi had just fought a long war in that Sudan area and that with the Houthis, and all the in Yemen, and all that had happened was they had killed 300,000 people. Several Saudis died. Big humanitarian crisis, huge bloodshed, total destruction, but no outcome. And Houthis were hitting the Saudis' oil facilities. So nothing was happening to dampen their spirit. The Palestinians on both sides of the aisle, that is on the Gaza as well as the West Bank, they had toned down their rhetoric, and it was seeming that it was a possibility that there will be a settlement between the Palestinians and the Arabs, and loosening of that border and hard line will happen. And Israel, very importantly, before 7th of October, was a divided country. Benjamin Netanyahu's political prospects were in very grave danger. And the country was just being split up. There were three parties contending with no majority in sight, and there was continuous political instability in Israel. And just see what happens after that. And if you see, today, Israel has almost finished all its contending powers. Egypt has totally sidelined. He has said he has nothing to do with anybody, and he is not going to take in the Palestinian refugees. It is only concerned on one thing, that his border is sealed and no Palestinian gets in Israel. You do what the hell you want in Gaza, I will go and issue few statements and keep quiet about it. The Arabs in the Western Isle, especially Saudi, they were initially expected that they will raise a hue and cry, especially about the Ummah and the grind, especially which these people were getting right up to the fall of the Syrian regime. Even that was a disappointment. Saudi issued humanitarian statements, no strong condemnation, and it was not able to sign the declaration because that would have actually been construed as blasphemy by the king, who has already pushed the country very fast into reform. It would have destabilized, but more or less a tacit wink-wink situation is there. You do what you want, we are not bothered. Gaza stands isolated. Hezbollah is crushed. Syria finished. Syria captured half, divided between the terrorist regime of ISIS and the half of the no man's land or a buffer zone under Israeli occupation, with Golan Heights firmly under strategic and military control of Israel. Lebanon totally uprooted and vanquished. Hezbollah as a force is a history. Hamas, now the last vestiges of Hamas is being plucked and it is going to be erased from this planet. And Israel is on the verge of completing its war on Hamas. Almost Hamas is history, and whatever remains is there, it is symbolic. Then all the auxiliaries of Israel, one by one, auxiliaries of Iran, one by one, have tasted the dust. Russia's biggest foothold through the straits of Bosphorus into the warm waters of Mediterranean gone out of hand. Russia is deeply embroiled in the Ukrainian war, and 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 also what is happening is that Russia is totally embroiled, and now it has no strategic presence in the Middle Eastern theater. Now Russia ceases to be an effective player, and it is unable to support the Shia bloc. Today, as of now, the Iranian regime, which was once thought to be one of the most formidable regimes which could ever take birth in that area and who could challenge the might of the American empire, stands not only firmly isolated but thoroughly defeated. So this is the strategic calculus, which I would say has totally shaped, totally changed the calculus, the political strategic calculus in that entire Middle East region, and it has actually split the world. Never ever after will such a situation arise where the Persian Gulf, Straits of Hormuz, the Red Sea, and what we call as the Nile, the Suez Canal, these two major geopolitical routes for trade, the security is permanently jeopardized. International business, which was on the cusp of a takeoff after a post-COVID world, sees no signs of recovery. And we have one winner out of the entire scenario, that is hands down Israel. Israel is now unified like a rock. Their people have lost too much, and they are fighting an existential war where each and every Israel on any side of the ideology understands it's now or never. So Israel is unified, Israel is war hardened, Israel is expanding. So there are accusations in the OIC bloc and the Middle Eastern corridor saying that this is all a part of Greater Israel project. We don't know if that is true, but as of today, we can see the Israel's borders are marching forward, and any concept of a two-state policy with Hamas or Palestine is now history. So what do you say?
So what does Iran-Israel conflict reveal about the shifting nature of warfare in the 21st century, especially move from proxy to direct confrontation?
It has revealed one thing very clearly. Not only Iran-Israel conflict, if you see Operation Sindoor, if you see all these countries who were basically using insurgency, terrorism as a tool of state policy, for all their rhetoric, for all their bravado, when it actually comes to conventional war, their capabilities to fight a conventional war has been deeply denuded. It is being seen that the auxiliaries can only do that much, terrorized unarmed civilians. But when it comes to dying and killing and fighting a well-trained professional army, these people have proved a total failure, and all their threats, all their big talks, nuclear holocaust and so on and so forth, and wiping from the face of the earth, and response which the world will never forget. It is actually a response world has never forget. The world is laughing. Is this what the response was supposed to be? Few missiles here and there. And this is your great regime, death to America, death to Israel, and all the time has been done by Iranians only. Mostly the Iranian generals and the Vilayat. And Israel can just, tick off people from the list and basically pronounce death. Sitting in somewhere location in Israel, and the person in Iran is dying. The Iranian regime has been reduced to a mockery of itself. And so on and so forth. The operation is a signal of direct Israeli intervention into the Iranian politics, signaling all the dissenting forces that the lion has to rise and let's throw out these mullahs and bring back your Shah.
Yeah.
And from some remote location in Jordan and sometimes France, sometimes England, the family of Shah, he is making pronouncement that this crisis has befallen the Iranian people due to this stupid Ayatollah. It is time you get rid of them. So this is what has actually happened.
Yeah.
And nobody, no sane person with all the military calculus could have even predicted that it will be so one-sided and this will be the state of the once mighty Iranian empire.
Yes. So how does the involvement of major powers like the US and China impact the potential for global escalation?
The entire escalation is funded by these powers. If you see why 7th of October happened. 7th of October happened because the IMEC was being signed. That is my geopolitical calculus. Had IMEC been in operation, nobody would have gone through the stupidity of BRI, which is nothing but a Chinese imperialistic project of funding infrastructure for Chinese overreach into your border at your cost and your depth at a fantastic interest rate of China. Yeah. So China wants to invade your country. It tells you to come and sign the contract. He gives you loan, takes back the money from the other hand, gives it to his company, makes the road so that he has got reach, and after that he leases it, the whole thing to himself at a 99 year of lease, and your population is paying the bill and high interest rate. This is what BRI project is. So people who were going gung-ho, BRI, they have understood the suicidal tendency of the project. Yeah. And they were actually looking at gaped expectation regarding IMEC's success. Now, China understood this calculus very well. Yeah. So it made all the components of this strategy to fight with each other and destroy the geopolitical peace or the forum in which a multilateral project could be made. It created a situation where the components or the participants of the project will be at perpetual conflict. Yeah. And then they will not think about a grand project like this, which could have done a great service to humanity and global trade. Yeah. So this is the entire 7th of October invasion was planned by Chinese, the military planners, aided and assisted by Pakistani ISI agent who had been in continuous network with Hamas. The material for constructing the pipeline and the Qasam rocket launchers or Qasam rockets came from Chinese people who said that they were supplying from making sewer pipes. And they were giving solid hydraulic class C pipes, that is seamless pipes, seamless carbon steel pipes were being supplied in the name of sewer pipes, which were easily being dug up and used by the Hamas militants as cheap unguided missiles. So all these gymnastics had been done. And America initially tried to get its feet out of Middle East, tried to get its feet out of Russia and Europe and focused purely on China. America has been hamstringed so badly in that area that America now has all the aircraft carrier fleet which was focusing and trying to protect Taiwan. Now they are diverted into this theater by the very fact that it is now committed to save Israel from an existential crisis, and Israel has almost picked up a fight with all its enemies one by one, and they are at war on 7 fronts, as they say. Nice. So it becomes a moral obligation of America to save Israel, and it will not be able to focus on the South China Sea where its strategic calculus was.
So can international institutions like UN, IAEA still play a meaningful role in preventing nuclear escalation in the regional conflicts?
The role of IAEA,
Yeah.
the role of UNSC, the role of UNHCR, WHO has been not been neutral but highly partisan and very, very specific to certain ideology. We have seen it during the spread of Wuhan virus. We have seen the entire narrative building in terms of Operation Sindoor, and we are seeing the same kind of uh, attitude of this multilateral organization when it comes to global conflict.
Mm.
They are now acting as the agent of the global deep left state or the woke band.
Yeah.
And this wokeism and illogical, let us say, hyperbolic conclusions which have no ground implementation possibilities and absolutely stupid geopolitical conclusions which these organizations try because the countries who are funding their bill, they give them a pass on the slip for them to read from the high table, has done unequivocal damage to their credibility. These multilateral organizations, which were on the cusp of making a unified voice for humanity, have now passed into obsolescence and they have become a matter of ridicule and lacking severe credibilities on both sides of the aisle of a contesting conflict. Nobody wants to listen to them. Either the aggressor or the aggressed, or the victim or the perpetrator, or in case both of them, or both the protagonist or both the conflicting people said that you please shut up first of all, let's hammer it out. And even if they have to actually go to some third party for protection, they don't go to these multilateral organizations. They will pick a side with a superpower. Like whenever Pakistan gets a dress down or a thrashing, royal thrashing, then it takes the tail between the leg and covers under the sofa of the US president. When basically Pakistan has to do some kind of harassment, it basically hides behind the Chinese panda and then starts barking towards India.
Yeah.
So they have people have come to the conclusion that the multilateral organization, especially the UN as a body of, rather I would say a second version of League of Nations, has reached its ultimate futility as it had reached before the Second World War. And if things go this way, we might be on the verge of a third world war or a extra-regional conflict, where this kind of organization will be just be a mixed spectator or will get disbanded in total.
So could this conflict mark the beginning of a new era of normalized preemptive strike? What does that mean for international law and norms?
They say that the rule is decided by the victor. And there was a saying that a hypocrite has a double standard. What we can say with the NATO allies, they have multiple standards. One standard is for themselves, one other standard for the ally, and the third one for the neutral people, and the fourth one for the enemy. And sometimes they have absolutely no standard. Whatever the person wakes up in the morning and it puts to his official social media handle, that becomes the standard for the day. And it basically doesn't follow any geopolitical calculus or logic. You just see what was totally unjustified according to them, and then there was this hue and cry on Indus Water Treaty, become thoroughly justified and a right war for Israel. This is not to take away that Israel had been wronged and it was correct in striking Iran, which had in very clear terms said openly that they want death for Israel and death for America. It had announced its policy, clear-cut manner in front of the whole world, and these actions were not hidden. especially when their actions were traced, the Hamas were traced with Iranian funding and support and with the weapons logistics. This was a foregone conclusion. This way or that way, Israel was going to take his revenge, and it has taken. But if India tomorrow has to use the same logic which Israel is using, that a country which basically causes existential threat to me cannot possess nuclear weapon, then why United States is administering the nuclear weapons of Pakistan, whose stated policy is Ghazwa Hind, which is the epicenter of terrorism and which is the greatest rogue state of all the other states, which has rabid Islamic architecture inside it. Probably it is far more dangerous than 10 Irans put together. But for them, they can very well have their nuclear weapon and they can have their sovereignty, and then the Asif Munir will have dinner with the president after carrying out the dastardly act of killing civilians. So, if you see now today, there is no logic. If the logic has died several deaths, irony has died several deaths, and people will be aghast, is what is true for Israel. Israel being a brother country of India, who has suffered the same way as Indians have suffered. Jews have been equally persecuted, if not more than Hindus, or probably less than Hindus. Hindus have been far more persecuted. We say share a common bonhomie against common enemies with a specific ideology which wants to vanquish us both. So if Israel has a right to live and exist by defeating these people, it has a right to grow. Why the same right is not extended to India? This is what the geopolitics and our planners and let us say people, our diplomats have to now start speaking on the global stage. Okay, we say what Israel has done is correct. We fully support it as got correct. Now the same rights and responsibilities should be extended to us. Asif Munir today must die in the same manner as Israel has pronounced the death of Ayatollah Khomeini as enmity of humankind. So which kind of friend Asif Munir is for the humankind, where the Pakistanis themselves are standing outside the Hilton Hotel and giving him filthy abuses, saying that he has got blood in his hand and is a dictator and a butcher. So this is what today's geopolitical pundits must think about. And then we have to draw a moral parity. And I think the only thing that is going to draw the moral parity is comprehensive national power and military strength.
So coming to Iran-Israel, with the US now militarily involved, are we witnessing the early stage of a broader regional war? What are the red lines?
Already the regional war has started taking place. Iran has, even if symbolically, struck at at a missile base or a military base of US. Whether people were evacuated from that place, it is immaterial. The fact is, as a base, it is US territory, and Iran has carried out military strike on US territory. Now, US has already responded, has already drawn the first blood by dropping the GPO MOP, massive ordnance penetrator, onto the Fordo nuclear reactor. It has drawn the first blood. So, US cannot claim as of today that it is innocent and its sovereignty has been breached. In fact, it is guilty of breaching the sovereignty of Iran. Iran has responded. Now, the talks are, if Chinese C-130s are landing and arming Iranians with weapons which are directly to be used against the US soldiers and Israeli operatives, what will happen once there is a major strike which can cripple a certain US base? Already Turkey is finding it very difficult to negotiate the route because ideologically it is 200% with Iran, though it is the religious opposite of Iran in terms of Islamic ideology, but it is totally married to the purpose of Iran, though being betrothed into the NATO alliance. So will the NATO alliance think of jettisoning Turkey? Because now it is acting thoroughly against the common NATO interest in Middle East. Nobody knows where it is going. And also, today if you see the condition of all the countries where regime change operations have been carried out. Iran, Libya, Lebanon, Syria, an arc of instability is growing. This arc of instability has breathed extremely dangerous, highly motivated, extremely radical and rabid militant organizations, which are heavily committed, and today they are capable of deep strikes into any modern state. So what is happening in that area? And where will it lead to? How will it go for a larger strike? Will Iran use the auxiliaries as Wasif Munir is dreaming to use the Bangladeshi and Pakistani terrorists via the Nepal route to strike India? Will Iran use the Hezbollah and Houthis? Houthis have already done the needful to strike Israel and again draw unforgiving wrath on its civilian population? Or if one, let us say, hypersonic missile from the Chinese launchers operated by Iranian IRGC soldiers land on aircraft carrier or a military base of US, causing heavy casualties, can the political fallout be handled by Washington, or it will mandate a total and conclusive bombing of Iran, where when Iran will be dismantled and decimated, this will give a certain kind of signal to, let us the irregular auxiliaries to launch a prolonged but bloody war of insurgency against all the American bases, 11 or 12 of them in that region, which will again trigger responses. Now it's a high stakes game. Nobody knows who will be basically the last person who gets pauperized out of the table and which gambler basically gets up from the table knowing his time is up. Today, Trump, having come on a mandate of ending war, having a credit-taking fetish, or I would say mania, where he is poking his nose in every conflict, trying to say ceasefire, has himself pressed the button and he has done the firing. Today, he has lost the moral equivalence of a peacemaker, himself entering the conflict of a nation which has not yet attacked before that time on any American interest, though it had the capability to do so.
I see.
Now, what will happen? Will Iran attack the Saudis and get the Saudis also to rally against them?
Will Iran? We have, sorry to interrupt you, we have only 1 minute of time left. So we have to wrap up the session today and then we'll be coming back again.
Yeah. So will Iran basically violate the sovereignty of Jordan? Will Iran trigger similar unrest in Iraq? This chapter is far from over and people don't know what is in the hidden secret of future, where the conflict will go. Definitely, Israel has emerged a winner out of the conflict, which is stronger than its position on 7th of October. Thank you, sir. Thank you for that.
So thank you so much, Saptarishi Basuji. It was very enlightening to discuss with you. So this was all for today, Iran-Israel war and the impact on global stability and peace, and what are the implications for India. So if you like the discussion, please share the video, like the video, and subscribe the channel. We'll be coming back again with some new topic. So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.